Hi, I'm Lindsay, and this is Kinda Healthy Podcast. Today, my guest is Jamila Owens-Todd, a naturopathic doctor certified in restorative medicine, a tea business owner, and the owner of the Golden Grocer, a health food store here in St. Louis. Jamila's super knowledgeable and really down to earth. I had a great time talking to her. Here's my conversation with Jamila. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. How are you?
All right. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jamila.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I was really excited when I looked at your bio because there's so much to jump into with you.
Where do we start?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I wanted to start with your practice that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So you're certified in restorative medicine, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you like to focus on in your practice with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, so as a naturopathic doctor, one of the things that we learn is that you treat the person and not the illness. So I often get calls, do you treat thyroid? Do you treat migraines, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease? And I cringe when I say yes, because technically I don't treat those illnesses. I treat the person because I
Right.
can see 10 people in a day who all have a Crohn's diagnosis, but they all present differently.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, well, let's talk about how the pain presents and how it makes you feel. Some people's pain can be triggered by, eating corn. Others can be triggered by a phone call with their ex, So naturopathic medicine looks at that total picture and what's going on physically, what's going on emotionally. All of it's important.
How hard do you think that is to introduce that concept to somebody who isn't used to thinking that way?
Yeah, it's a good question. Most of the people who will visit a naturopathic doctor, they're at their wits' end. They've been
Right.
to every specialist. They've been to all of the top leaders in medicine in the very traditional sense. So it's kind of like they're just ready to do something different. The other component of it is no matter how you think about your body, there's something that you know that I don't know. There's
Right.
something that you know that the doctors don't know. And so I really feed off of the healer that's already there within you, who's shouting out, "Hey, we're craving chocolate." Well, maybe you're craving chocolate because you need the magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't feel right drinking milk anymore. It's, you're not lactose intolerant, but you might know that inflammation from the casein in the milk is one of the factors that's creating inflammation in the body. So I speak to that healer that's already there, the doctor that's within you. And I think people feel it and they've been told that that's not the correct thing to do, or what your intuition isn't the right answer, or
Right.
there's something else. And that's where I come in and support people.
So how do you feel when you see people taking their health issue and using it as part of their identity? You know what I mean? When they say my this and my that, almost like a part of them they're not willing to give up.
You're going heavy. Well, that's so interesting because often when I tell someone I don't treat the illness, that can be a turnoff.
Right.
And it's like, no, I've lived all of my years with diabetes. And I'm like, yeah, but diabetes does not define you. And I want to be really careful in even saying that to people because they've created they've created a community around their diabetes. Their communities around breast cancer. Their communities around MS. And so as much as I value that community support, having forums and people that you can speak to, there is also the need to understand that this is something that your body and your life, your experience, your healing path is moving through. Doesn't necessarily have to be the permanent fixture that defines who you are.
Right.
It's just like being, a child of trauma, or a child of alcoholism. How much of that do you carry with you here, and then in your muscle fiber?
Right.
And how much of that are you willing to shed? That's a lot of work. And so I'm always cautious and careful in stepping into that boat of grasping onto the traumas, the pain, the identifiers, and really thinking about what do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you feeling in this moment? It's not the MS doing this to you. It's what's going on in your body and how do we differentiate? It's not the trauma that has done this to you. It's how you are, how it's helped, and that's, I know, very careful to say that, how it's helped or how it's hindered. And so,
Right.
yeah, that's a deep one. That's a big one.
Right. I mean, people are used to thinking of having the community around you in a weight loss sense. I know a lot of people
Yeah,
talk about the body positivity right now. And
absolutely.
when people want to break away from that and try to focus on their health, they get a lot of backlash. So it's interesting
Yeah.
that you do point out that you can have other conditions and problems and still have the fear of breaking away from your support to be more independent and more healthful.
Absolutely. And that I see that from the point of view of patient and doctor. Okay, now your cholesterol has been normal for 5 years. Do you still need the cardiologist?
Right.
And it's like, well, there's this kind of insidiousness in the medical field of, trust this person in front of you. And I really want people to trust the person that's within you.
Right.
And when it comes to your health, you can see the forum, the community as an extension in that moment. I always talk about the seasons and the reasons why people show up in your lives, whether it's an ex-partner, whether it's a past job, those things, as horrible as they may have been in that moment, are a part of your character and they've defined you in that moment and you can now grow from it. So you don't hold on to the past of the exes or the past jobs. You hopefully have learned from those
Right.
experiences. So it's the same with health and healing. We have to first know that the thing about our body is that every second of the day, it is conspiring to heal us.
Mm-hmm.
That's independent of our negative thoughts. That's independent of someone telling us you have this for the rest of your life. That's independent of all of this stuff. The body is just this well-oiled machine that operates without us or not, without
Right.
us here or not. So I think when we get into the space of healing, it is a very totality type of picture. It's what's going on with me, my compassion of self. Am I kind enough to myself to leave behind the
Mhm.
past of this illness?
Right. Because sometimes you're leaving behind something that's all you know. And so you're
That's
moving
all.
into a whole new realm of things, and that can be uncomfortable. And people almost will stay in a bad place instead of going to a place that's new and uncomfortable, but may have good outcomes. Right. And,
Yeah.
when you were talking about finding the healer inside the person, them getting used to trusting themselves and their intuition. It
Mhm.
really made me think about how just with advertising and everything, we are taught all the time, you don't know what you need.
Yeah, right,
What you,
right,
right?
right, right. And you hear that. You hear, and you're in some of these meetings with business professionals, the first thing they'll say is consumers don't know what they want.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, whoa, simmer down here. But in the big picture, from that business standpoint, their job is to tell you what you want. And you're right. And we kind of fall apart. Maybe I do need a Big Mac. It's 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
The commercials telling me I need one. Maybe they know something I don't know.
Right.
And so it is a daring and radical thing to trust yourself and to act on that trust, because you can become isolated. It's like, who do you think you are, trusting your own viewpoint, trusting your belief system, trusting your healer within. And so that's why it's like communities aren't bad. Obviously, they're good when you are branching into that next phase of what do I need? It's very different from what I've been told all
Right.
of my life. And now I'm feeling like I need something totally in a different time in a span. So absolutely. I didn't know we were going here today, but thank you.
I don't know how else to go.
I like it. I like it.
Right. Because a lot of times you can become isolated even within your own family. Maybe that's not the culture you've been brought up with, and you want to
Yes.
break away and be healthier. And it's something foreign to any loved one you have. And sometimes they don't like to see that either. So that can be
Oh,
really hard too.
it's very hard because, in families, we are passed down tradition, right? And
Right.
it is the tradition to sit at the table and consume, 8,000 carbs in one meal.
That's
It is
right.
the tradition. This is the recipe passed down. And so there is a ritual and a traditionalistic component to family that is passed on, whether I want it or not, because I'm
Mhm.
supposed to receive it, because that's what families do.
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes families do a dance of disrespect, I call it. So it's like, you think about like a sibling may come into your home, they'll go into your refrigerator. Hey, what do you have to eat?
Mhm.
Now, if a stranger did that, we would just be, writing the blog
Right.
about it, calling the cops. Like, wait, what is this? So the level of personal respect, often the boundaries are gone. And so here I come and I'm saying, you know what? I don't feel well when I eat massive amounts of pork, beef, or chicken, so I don't want that. But don't you understand? Grandma makes the best pork chop, and that's what grandma does. That's her love language. And so I'm denying this love language because I know I need something different. It's hard to articulate that in that setting, especially if you're the youngest or we've always known you to be this, and families kind of compartmentalize you, and you're so-and-so's child, and you eat what so-and-so has prepared for you for all
we've known you your whole life. We know all about you.
How
Don't
dare
come
you
at
not
us
eat
with
pork?
this new identity.
Yes. You went off to college and now you don't eat pork. Like, you get all of these kind of nuances, and that's insecurity. That's fear. Fear that you're straying away from the tradition. Insecurity of what are you doing? What did I do wrong to you? And so it is a lot of healing that has to occur within the family dynamic so that we can heal on a greater scale.
Right.
So
and a lot of times people can take that as a judgment on their actions. Just because you want to do something better doesn't mean that you're now looking at them as being wrong. Sometimes it's a total just individual process, but people can be really threatened by seeing that and thinking, well, if you don't want to do that, that means I shouldn't do that. And I don't want to change. So now I'm mad.
And I'm mad. And I often tell some of my, patients who've ventured off into changing their eating habits and working out more. They're feeling great, but they're hiding some of these things. And, I say, you have to accept being the crazy one. You have to accept being the oddball or the black sheep, because this is just not the norm of what the family has done. Who do you think you are going for runs and exercising? And again, it's the fear of what did we do that was so horrible to you, or you have to totally alter your lifestyle.
Do you not want to be in this family?
That's not what we do. We throw back fingers and we sit on the couch, So I think it's a brave and radical choice to step into your healing and to own it and trust that the actions that you're putting forth are only there to support you. And you really have to, and I think sometimes the newly healthy people, I say, try not to accost your family either. If you're bringing, a kale and, chickpea salad to the dinner and someone's still eating fried chicken, don't now judge them because you don't want that same judgment. So it goes both ways. I think we can ease into this and with a gentle kind of loving nature and a place of non-judgment, but also be willing to be a little bit of the pincushion because you're the different one. You're changing the rules. You're the one that's acting out of the norm and being okay with that.
Yeah. I think that balance is really important because a lot of times when people feel that they've learned a new way, a better way of doing things, they want to push it on people too. So it's not always just, from the outside saying, why are you changing? Sometimes it is, why aren't you deciding to change too? And so,
so we have to be really careful. I can't go into, and an example, I had a family member who was just having a rough time with their health. And she said, I said, is there anything I can do? Can you run in the store and get me a pack of soda? Now, I think soda is a plot to destroy the human kind, human race. They're all out to get us. That's the whole point of soda. So, but in this moment, someone needs something and I'm asking them what they need. I can give the lecture on how this is the worst thing ever, or I can be there and support this person in a time of need. And I think that's the challenge too with family. It's like I look at soda as a part of the, we have many addictions in society. Food is one. And it's a common addiction, which is caffeine and soda, right? The sugar, caffeine, the whole conglomerate of it all. So there's you're making these life choices, but then you have to say, is this really about me? This is a person who's asking for some support and comfort in this moment. I ask, how can I help you? So do I jump in and judge and critique the person's way of needing help in that moment? Or do I just shut up and help them? So there are the personal battles that we deal with, which are internal, which doesn't need to be passed on to the person who's needing the healing in the moment. So that is also my growth and, struggles that I've gone through, where I want to be there and I want to show up and participate, but I got to get out of my head and out of my so-called attachments to what health is. So how do you feel about when you do reintroduce people to the basics of health, getting enough water, getting enough sleep, getting sunlight, physical activity, all that?
How do people react to that being so simple? Such a, like, I'm used to being told I need surgery, I need prescriptions. So how is doing something as simple as those things going to really change this problem I feel is so big?
Yeah, that's an awesome question because I jokingly, questioned myself and have jokingly questioned in the past, is this really worth a consult fee?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I know is that when people seek out help, that is the number one way of engaging your healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're seeking out, whether it's an MD, an ND, acupuncturist, massage therapist, you're seeking another person so you can bounce an idea off of. And the simplicity of health and healing, I would say that, are you eating, sleeping, and pooping? Like let's start there before we get into the fancy vitamins and the herbs.
Right.
So the simplicity of it sometimes is the reminder, and I often call myself the great reminder because I may not come with a host of new and novel therapies, but I may just say, let's maximize your sleep routine. What is it that's going on that's compromising your sleep? Because once your sleep is compromised, your immune cells, which are active at night, are now compromised, and your hormonal balance starts to show some dysregulation, which is also optimized at night. So even though it's sleep, I know that there's so many layers of healing that are happening while sleeping. So I do find, I'm often saying, what are you drinking, eating, getting water, sunlight, movement. But I also know that I need that reminder too.
Right.
So I have gotten away from thinking, oh, this is simple, it won't help, to really, I'm your ally. I'm here to bring forth the things that could really spark some health and healing. I'll give you an example of that. I had a weekend where I think we played like volleyball and I was running with my daughter. It was a host of things. And, as I am becoming a person of a certain age, there's certain things that required extra soak and Epsom salt. Right. And I had tightness and I woke up and I was like, why is my back tight? Like I was just so miffed, like what's going on? And I was on the phone with my mother and I was just like, well, maybe I need to go see a urologist and a nephrologist. She's like, you just did like 18 activities in a day. Why don't you soak in Epsom salt? And I was like,
right.
I'm going to, do I need a nephrologist and a urologist? Tightness in the back and my kidney failed. I'm having all these, because I get here, and I think we all do. We're thinking about rent. We're thinking about what time the kids got to get here. And then something goes off in my health. I'm not thinking simply in some cases.
Right. So
that simple thinking can be the one thing that helps you get back on track. So whether it's me, whether it's any practitioner or family member, I think though it's never too simple.
Right.
It's sometimes just redirecting.
Yeah. And then sometimes we need to get to a baseline of health to even see what we need to be really looking at. Because if you're not going to process things correctly, are you processing slow? Are you processing fast? What nutrients and how many are you going to be able to absorb to even get to where you want to be?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that you hit the nail on the head, just what processing, because I often have people say, I noticed I felt better when I was on those B vitamins. You think I should get back on B vitamins? And my first question is, well, do you think you have a B vitamin deficiency? If that answer is yes, then it's like, well, it's not necessarily a supplement deficiency. It's a food or nutrient deficiency.
Right.
So let's explore why you're not getting your B vitamins. What's robbing you of the B vitamins versus do I just need to take a bunch of supplements? And I know, so we're busy, right? So it's like, oh, my iron's low. Let me go grab some iron. I get that. But let me really dig a little deeper on why is the iron low? Have I noticed a change with my cycles? Am I not getting enough iron-rich foods? And is my body not absorbing? How do I know if my body's not absorbing? Oh, you notice more heartburn, gas. I feel a little bloated. Like you're having all these subtle symptoms that you pass off as, oh, I ate something fried or I ate something, which are signs of malabsorption. So if you're not absorbing, then you're not going to get those top nutrients, the larger nutrients that show up very quickly on labs, iron, calcium, bone health. So they're bigger minerals that are harder to absorb. And the signs of deficiency to me speak to the body and the gut's ability to receive. So it's like, well, let's back up. Before we go out and buy our calcium and our iron, let's think about the whys and how do we get to the need of calcium and iron.
Right. Because if you don't get to the root of it, it doesn't matter how many more you put in.
Yes.
it's not going to
Yes.
make a difference, right?
And I see it, someone's like, oh, I've been taking iron for months and my levels aren't jumping up. I'm thinking, well, there's something else going on here. And it's not that, oh my goodness, it's a red flag. It's just we need to explore the full picture and get to the root of why.
Right.
And that's the fun part. I think people feel a little bit more relieved when they go down that rabbit hole as opposed to just throwing supplements back, because it's just the same as why not just take a pill for it?
Right.
Well, you can, but once that pill, you don't have a pill deficiency. There's something going on that's needing that pill, and the pill is just filling that little gap very temporarily.
Right. Yeah. We've gotten so far away from understanding just the processes of the body. And like you said, if somebody was taking iron for a long time, instead of thinking, I don't think iron works for me,
Right.
why is it not working,
Yeah. The big questions.
Right. So I know you also do teas, right? You own your
Yes.
own herbal tea.
I love tea. What's so funny about tea is that it was always like a hobby. I
Right.
would just mix and blend different herbs. And then in my practice, I made teas for patients. So when I was training, I did my training in Toronto, the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. And we had a native clinic there. It was for the Anishinaabe, for Native Canadians. And we had a wall of herbs and we would make tea. So the thing about it, it was a federally funded clinic, but of course the resources were minimal. So it was kind of like, here are some herbs, figure it out, help people with these herbs. And you're thinking, oh, there's very little. But then you're in there and you start to realize, oh, I can combine this herb and that herb and form. And they pretty much were always consumed as a tea. And so I like teas because it's historically, it's like the medicine of the people.
Right.
We see high tea and, kind of those things, it seems to be like this elitist, but that's not how tea is really prepared. In the streets of India, you have chaiwalas on the side of the road boiling up some herbs in a little pot and passing it along. So I love that component of tea because it's accessible. It's accessible, healing, and medicine, low cost, and most people tolerate it very well. So I've always kind of gifted a tea that was like my love language, I would say, is here's some tea I made for you. And then my partner said once, why don't you sell these? And I was like, oh, sell my tea, like, how dare you? And then I was like, yeah, maybe I should sell it. So I started making them therapeutic, like one for high blood pressure, one for stress, anxiety, and then at home I would make my fun teas, which were all about the flavor and aromas and layering. And I started just making it for parties. And long story short, I said, you know what? All right, I guess I will sell it. And it's been going pretty well. So that's like my hobby. I put on some good music. I light some incense. I'm having a ball. It's like my wild party, my wild night.
That sounds really relaxing and fun. Like you can just get into the zone of doing that, and you're just there for like hours.
Oh, I know. And I'm just mixing and blending, and it's just like it's a cool relaxation. I feel like the portals of the universe open when I'm mixing tea in my head.
Right.
In my world, that's what's happening. So it's cool. It's just like, I love that it's a hobby, and then now I've been able to make it, and I always enjoy it.
Right. I mean, if you got something good, you can't help but end up going down that road. It seems like people always have like a hobby of baking or doing, like you said, making the tea. And if it's good, people are going to want it. You almost can't avoid making it into a business.
I think it's pretty good.
So I know that I was looking at your website for the teas, and I noticed you had something other than tea on there too.
Oh, yeah.
It was not just it was using more of the other parts of the plants to make a tea versus.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's pronounced tisane or tisane.
Okay.
Yeah. So technically tea is one plant.
Okay.
Which is Camellia sinensis, which is just Latin for sinensis is Latin for Chinese, China. Okay. So tea, the plant that we use is the same as white tea, green tea, black tea. It's all the same plant.
Okay. Oh, it's just different maturities, right? Of the same plant?
It's how it's harvested,
Oh,
at what
okay.
stage of harvest. It's how some are steamed or oxidized, where we get into like the pu'er, oolong, lap song wushang, like those types of dark smoky teas, black tea, so there's a level of drying and heat that's applied naturally to get from a green tea to a black tea. And so when we say tea, it's a very informal component of drinking herbs.
Okay.
Technically, when you drink herbs, it's called a tisane.
Oh, okay.
They're not really called tea. So I started doing these tea when I started the company. I just wanted to be I wanted to be a resource and like information. And so I didn't want the tea aficionados to come and, lock me up. I was calling it tea.
Right.
But I get it. It's not tea. So technically they are not teas. Any herbal tea that does not have the actual tea plant,
Okay.
it's called a tisane.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I really only make tisanes.
Oh.
But the nomenclature, the common language would just call it a tea. Steeping herbs typically is called a tea, but I have only one blend that has green tea in it, and that's my love blend. Everything else is all herbs. And part of the reason I started the company is because I am someone who does not do well with a lot of caffeine. So I've had a lot of patients who just want a ritual sipping something at night or in the mornings that was not coffee. And, caffeine it can be great for some people. It could be the one thing that unravels you,
Right.
And so even mild anxiety can be exacerbated with a cup of green tea every day. So that was another reason why I just love the concept of drinking tea. And I don't want to embarrass myself, but I was drinking tea so incessantly that I created an iron deficiency. So black tea can unbind iron. Iron becomes harder to absorb in your body because black tea has a tannin component. Tannins tighten. So think red wine has tannins, that astringent taste that you feel in your mouth. So tannins tighten and make it harder for large iron molecules to absorb in the gut.
Yeah.
And I had an Earl Grey issue. The bergamot, it was just like Earl Grey. And I don't even want to disclose how many cups of tea I would consume. And I went to the doctor and was like, yeah, I'm tired. I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, your iron is like drastically low.
Wow.
Like, oh, that's odd. So I talk about the iron because of that. So I had to find other ways to drink my tea, and I just started making herbal teas. Yeah, so herbal teas technically are called tisanes.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I looked at that there, and I was like, hold on. And I was afraid.
No. Thank you. I'll read my website more thoroughly so I'll know what's on it next time.
Yeah, I know. I hate it when I see a word and I haven't heard it said. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, and I botch words all the time. So it's like, I'm calling it a tisane. I'm sure someone is going to correct me on something one day.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. As soon as you say it wrong, somebody will be right there to be like, no.
It's like, I don't speak English. I speak American. I'm very clear on that. So
Right. So you do have an herbal dispensary, right? You have practitioner grade supplements. Could you tell me about that?
Yeah. So I want to also just kind of update you a little bit.
Sure.
My practice with this lovely pandemic has changed many things.
Right.
So I went to 100% with my practice.
Oh.
And so patients, so when you came into my office, you can come in and I have teas for sale, and I have a lot of like high, what you call practitioner grade supplements for patients. And what that means is a lot of practitioner grade supplements are higher potency. I may see someone with a thyroid condition, and you don't want to sell some of this over the counter in a store because it's really easy to balance the thyroid naturally. But most people will they'll feel better and they'll keep taking it, and then they kind of sway to the opposite direction.
Right.
And now the thyroid is even more out of balance. So practitioner grade typically means, it's higher potency, or you really want to take it under the direction of some practitioner, because even though it's natural, it can still come with side effects. So that was offered in my practice. And since May of 2020, it's been totally virtual. Um, I do still have a way of kind of allowing patients to order those practitioner grade supplements. I have like a portal that I hook them up with, and I email the suggestions to them, and it or now ships directly from the warehouse. But part of the reason that shifted too is because I took over ownership of a health food store.
Right. Golden Grocer?
Golden Grocer, right. And so owning the store, I needed to create some boundary in that, because I still have links, and I can support patients who are on like a thyroid supplement. I can't sell that in the store. There are licensing agreements with some of these companies where it's just not meant to be sold in the store. So I have brought in to Golden Grocers some, like, bringing in as we speak, some higher quality supplements, but still not the practitioner grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you can still get some high quality, more commonly seen over the counter products within the store. So the health food store, I say, is an extension of my practice, because now I can have like some curated products and some offerings that I would love to kind of suggest in en masse, but can't do it when it's one-on-one with the patient. And so now it's like, well, I can have the store and just have some things that are available that I think would be good for immune health in general, or good for, digestive support in general, where the patients are not getting that one-on-one, but they have a customer experience. And then the staff, they're all in some way or shape or form, they're involved in healthcare and alternative healthcare. So they're savvy enough to be able to direct customers at that level. So with taking over the store, that, took a little bit more of my time. So it all kind of meshed together, as my practice started to change because of COVID and not being able to have patients come into the physical facility. It was a hard decision to finally make just to close it, but there were so many factors. I was in a multidisciplinary practice with 8 other practitioners, and we were just trying to work out the details, and it was just getting more and more challenging. So as that was changing and shifting, the store was growing. We couldn't keep things on the shelf because we were in the pandemic, and so a good problem to have. So I kind of pivoted with the pandemic into, now I still see patients considerably less than what I was before. I was full-time in my practice, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. Now I see patients maybe 2 to 3 times per week, and it's all virtual.
Wow.
So it's been a significant shift, but it's, I would say it's been a shift for the better, because there have been some good things that have come from this. So yeah, that's where I am.
So how did you wind up becoming the owner of Golden Grocer?
Yeah. So the previous owner, who had owned the store for 40 years, it's been a staple in the community, had reached out to me about purchasing. And at the time I was like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No. So that was kind of my initial reaction. And then, we had some additional conversations, and I said, well, let me think about this. And I kind of sat with it for about a week, and I didn't want to come in and dismantle what was already there. But I knew that if I came in and took over ownership, there would have to be changes. So it's a hard place to be in when people have been in a system. It's like a merger and acquisition, right? Everyone hates the acquisition of a company, the staff for sure. But, my assumption was, it's been good because the staff have been like, thank you for coming. Thank you for making these changes. Thank you for. So it was because I knew there were a lot of changes that were needed. I mean, it was a very traditional store. It's very, a lot of the practices of, old school health food stores were preserved. A lot of things were done by hand, written in pencil. So I had to come, I had to automate the system. I had to come in and bring in a point of sale system and put everything into inventory.
Wow.
So that's just because in my head, this is the only way it can work. Like I'm a bit of a digital kid. So it's like, I needed everything on a computer. So bringing in register, computerizing the store was number one, and making updates. And then once I acquired it, then we moved to a new building, a new build out, new design. So there was just a lot. I was like, I'm coming in like, well, I'm only going to make minor changes. And I totally changed the entire.
Yeah, classic. Classic thought there, right?
And, it's just once you get in, you start to realize, and, this has to change. And some things were like the building was at the end of its lease. And there was just, there were so many things that just so happened all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, I took over ownership in end of January, early February of 2020.
Right.
Well, there was another significant event that happened February 2020. So I was like,
surprise!
Oh, no. So that was yeah. That was a whole thing, like, wow, I just purchased this business and then we hit a pandemic.
Right.
But, I can say the company has been thriving. I was able to hire new staff and bring in new product and go into a new building. So it's been a positive. It's been a positive, even when it felt like bumpy. It's
a lot. Yeah.
I don't know what, but it's smoothing out. Things are looking good and kind of back to smooth sailing. So I'm excited about that.
Right. So I know your career started in the sciences. So how did you kind of end up going down the path of natural health and all of that? What was that journey like for you?
I feel like I'm forever a chemist. There's a part of me that wants to understand how things are made, and I want to make things. I want them to be, and I want that to be transparent to people. So I would like to say that I actually really enjoy being in the lab. I consider myself a lab rat, which is funny. I was planning, so as in chemistry and science, you kind of think, what's your PhD going to be? So I was thinking my PhD I was going to do organic chemistry, and I was going to find a cure for cancer, and my route to do that was to work in different lab settings, move into research, work in research, and then go back to do my PhD. So I achieved that. I worked at Mallinckrodt and worked for the FDA, and then I went into a pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
That's what a large pharmaceutical company in their formulations department. And as much as I enjoyed that work, because I worked on what I felt like were really good drugs, if you can say that. One was Lamictal or Lamotrigine, which is used for epilepsy. Well, now it's used more commonly for bipolar disorder. And many patients with bipolar disorder feel like, they feel like their life is balanced and changed because of it. So I think medications serve a purpose. I want to be really clear. I think there are some meds that, carvedilol was another drug I was working with. That's, for people post, MI or heart attack.
Heart attack.
Yeah. So post heart attack, that medication could be something that sustains life. So I think there are some really awesome meds there. So long story short, I worked in a lab. I enjoyed the lab, but I was kind of like the herb girl. So in my head, I was like, oh, how do I apply this to herbs? The science for herbs are there. You can see just as many studies that show, beneficial chemicals in, the aloe vera plant or in the olive leaf or in echinacea that have an action in the body that's a very chemical reaction, just like a traditional drug would do.
Right.
And so I'm taking all of this pharmaceutical knowledge in my spare time, applying it to medications. Well, if that medication, applying it to herbs, that medication has an alkaloid content. Well, that herb has an alkaloid content, and it's going to meet the brain and the body in a specific way. And I thought, shouldn't someone else be doing this? Like, I'm kind of smart, but I'm not that smart to be like creating this system.
Yeah, because that could be like a whole rabbit hole you end up going down. Right. It's like, hold on, I need help.
I need help. And I was like, someone has to have created this. And that's where I started studying scientific research. And it was like naturopathic doctors who were doing this high level clinical science research articles, epidemiological, like big kind of research studies were often fueled by naturopathic doctors. So I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And being thinking I was doing a PhD, I always said I would do that because I didn't want to speak to people all day.
Yeah.
I laugh now because I'm like,
No, I'm not taking offense. No.
well, I mean, I'm in my practice talking to people.
No, I get you. I'm the same way. If I could
Yeah.
not have to interact like that, especially all day long, that's different. Doing it all day long, that takes a lot out of you.
But it became one of those things where now I'm fueled by it because I'm
Right.
giving people information, I'm providing resources, and you see people light up, and then you see them changing, like seeing labs change, seeing physical structure, heart tissue, like shrinking cells and cancer. So you're seeing like, oh, this is working. So I always had the hobby of herbs, but then I found instead of doing my PhD in organic chemistry, I'll do this 4-year doctorate program in naturopathic medicine,
Right.
which really did marry the science and the herbs together.
Right. Yeah, I know. I started by, at first, I did the dramatic route of, I want to move off grid. So I did that for a year.
Yeah, really.
What'd you say?
That's like a wet dream of mine.
Yeah, it's great. I was up for anything that meant I could have chickens, but I mean, we did it. We got rid of our townhome and we just camped at state parks for a summer until we found land. Like it was going to happen,
Okay. Wow.
So I sold all my stuff. People thought I was doing an estate sale for like some old lady or something, but I was getting rid of all my own stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So we camped all summer. I think it was the summer of 2005. And we stayed out. We ended up finding a property kind of last minute. We got 10 acres in the Ozarks.
Oh my
Set up a
goodness.
cabin. That took a couple of months. We were just in a tent for a while.
Wait, did you guys build the cabin? Did you build the cabin?
No, you know what we did? We did one of those prefab little
oh yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like a tiny house, but yeah, it's like a garage type thing.
I've been pricing those on Amazon, by the way.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
It's my spare time. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Right. So we did that, we cleared the land and made a garden and everything. And I was never really that into plants or anything like that to start off with. Being in the city, I had no interest, know. Yeah. There wasn't much of a benefit to me because I don't know, anything I ever tried to grow died. So I got the message.
But you kind of have to grow stuff living off the land.
Yeah. So I started to get an interest in that and it didn't pan out. My husband needed to drive to work. I stayed with the kids and homeschooled at the cabin and took care of the animals. We had geese, ducks, chickens.
Oh my goodness.
Right. And so it was just one of those things where it was something I wanted to do. And so I just did it. I kind of surprised myself sometimes with those things.
Yeah.
But so he ended up having to drive to work more often than we were expecting. And it was a long drive.
Yeah.
So we ended up coming back to the city. And after having that experience, I had a renewed appreciation for herbs and plants and just food in general.
Yeah.
So I started taking herbal classes and I thought, maybe this is something I can still do being home with the kids. I can learn about herbs, do, put together herbal bath, mixes and things like that. But then I realized, hold on, I need to know how these interact together with people. Some people will throw everything in a mix, and then that just makes you liable for all these reactions you're going to be triggering in people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So then I started looking at doing more simple blends. And then so I started, going to school for herbs. I'm like, I need to know about this. It's not just a cute little thing you put together. It's serious. So I went to school for that. And then that made me realize, oh, you know what? It would help even more if I understood the health side, the person side, not just the plant side of these things. Right. So then I started going to school for natural health and it all snowballed. And I was like, I took a few courses and then I was like, I don't know if I want to do
the next course up, where I could have my own practice and get certified and all that. But I figured, heck, I've already done all the other ones. I might as well. Right.
So throw that in there. Might as well.
Yeah, I did it. And I realized, I don't want to own a practice, but I do want people to know how important health is. And I just want to get this information out there. So I feel like there's a lot of different paths you can take, branching off of the same road,
You're absolutely right.
you can have your own practice. You could, be a speaker, do something, but the information needs to get out. And I want it done in a way that it's not scary, it's not intimidating, and it's good for people new to it and, old to it,
Yeah. And that's very important because, I learned so much from so many different healers, some who have never stepped foot in a school.
Right.
And the thing about those levels, I think people get caught up in like, oh, this degree. And it's like, well, it's all about what your gift is to humanity in the sense of healing. Some people learn a lot and they share it with their close friends and family. Some people make bath bombs or salves and they share that healing in that way. Some people just travel and do the lectures and, small group lectures and say, hey, here are some things you can do to boost your immune function. I think it's finding what your niche is. And even within the naturopath, these different types of naturopaths, I always joke, there's like, they call them the green allopaths. And the green allopaths are the ones who, may work within a medical facility and kind of, mimic the medical doctors and just swap out, which there's a place for that because that's still an introduction. And then there are, I always joke the hippies, they have the Birkenstocks on or just like, here, just throw these herbs together. I think every part of that, spectrum of healer in the herbal or natural health arena all play a part. The unfortunate thing, there are a lot of unhealthy people. So, and we have moments of health and unhealth, all of us.
Right.
And so when we look at, where we fit in that kind of bandwidth of supporting someone, it doesn't matter what the training is. It more so matters on what the gift is that you can give, because that person can receive what they need from anyone who's willing to share. So, this medicine, this teaching, it's all a sharing. I say that to patients all the time. Well, we're sharing information here and we have to work together. I'm not a practitioner who's here to say, I'm here to heal you. I can't heal you. I am not, that's not my talent. But I can work with you to come up with some really awesome healing outcomes and protocols that will support you, but you're doing the work. Like, I'm not doing this work, it's not my path. I have my own journey that I'm working on. So I think I find that some, what I say, aspiring practitioners get caught up in the aspiration. I say, if you got this much knowledge, share that much knowledge.
Right.
I know what my scope is. We learn minor surgery in naturopathic medical school, sutures and biopsy. I'm not doing any of that. That's not my wheelhouse. Now, if I worked in a hospital and I was doing it regularly, then yes, I would do it. But I know my limitations. So it's like, yes, could I do it if I were forced to? But I am not trying to do minor surgeries on a daily basis. I will gladly refer you to someone else. And I can't do it in the state of Missouri anyway. So I think once it's like I've learned a little bit, but what's my gift? Where's my focus? And I hang out in that space and I'm not thinking, well, should I write a book on probiotics? Could I? Possibly. It's not my wheelhouse. It's not where I'm passionate about. It's not the thing I want to talk about all day. I can go on and on about probiotics and the different types, but that's not my focus. Where some naturopaths, they need to write a book on probiotics. Those are the people who exist for that. So it's like I stay in my lane, so to speak. And if you find out what your skill is and you just hone that and stay in your lane, you will help more people than you can possibly imagine. I also feel like, as far as like the sharing and giving information, you hit the nail on the head with herbs. I often, when I am speaking to groups, I do lean a little bit more towards the very simple herbs, I call them, or more supplements, because herbs come with a lot of side effects.
Right.
That's like the truth we really need to put out there is most people think it's like, oh, I'll just take, all these different herbs. A lot of herbs are have a level of toxicity, especially if you're, foraging in the wild. You have to, the whole point was learning the herb so that you didn't take the wrong one. So it's in how to take those, there are practitioners who will use some of those very toxic herbs, phytolacca and arnica, and they grow, rampant in many areas, are highly poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
That poison can be harvested and used in micro doses, but even that, I know how to do that. I'm not doing it because I don't even want to play around with the risk.
Right.
Because your sensitivity is very different from my sensitivity, very different from someone else's sensitivity. And that's the thing with herbs is you have to really kind of vet someone and know what their sensitivities are. So you did the wise thing, scale back and keep it simple. I always say with the herbal formula, you don't go more than 4. Mm-hmm. Keep 4 in there. Yeah, 4 herbs max. I mean, there are some cases where you might have more than 4, but if you're even with myself, I consider myself very expert level herb knowledge. I typically don't suggest more than 4 herbs in a formula because you need to know. And I often will say start with 1 herb at a time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like herbs have a energy to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that herb, what does wonders for me, may do nothing for you.
Right.
So there's something about your body's system that it may not resonate with, and it may not resonate and show up in the sign of vomiting. So someone's like, I'm vomiting from lemon balm. You think lemon balm is such a mild herb, but that person just doesn't need it.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you feel about essential oils in that way, about the concentration and the toxicity when used wrong?
Yeah, so essential oils, the chemist in me cringes when I hear people ingesting them.
Right.
And the essential oil is a volatile chemical. That's why they're sold in very tiny little bottles.
Right.
And the extraction process, when it's done right, will warrant this very potent molecule that is so potent that you do not have to ingest it.
Mm-hmm.
Inhalation triggers a part of olfaction, a part of the nervous system in the brain that turns on a healing like nobody's business.
Mm-hmm.
So if that oil has been thoroughly extracted well, there is never a need to ingest it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there are oils that say, oh, they're safe to ingest. And the one person who wrote the one book about that ingestion, which does not fit in any other mode of chemical science anywhere, is concerning to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, and I'll say it as nicely as I can. If you have an essential oil that touts being ingestible, it's not a high quality essential oil.
Yeah, that's something to think about, right?
Because if it were, it would literally scald your insides.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to say that any nicer, but yeah, essential oils don't need to be. If they're done right, they do a wonderful job in inhalation. I mean, we receive so many toxins in the environment.
Right. And we accept that as taking in something, right?
Yeah.
We understand that air pollution is taking in something bad,
Absolutely.
But for some reason, we don't think about getting good things the same way.
Right. And that's the point I'm making. We can get exposed to over 285 environmental chemicals just from stepping outside of our front door.
Right.
So if I'm inhaling something good like a lemon, lavender, frankincense, essential oil, that is healing and therapeutic to me. Why would I need to now ingest this when knowing that inhalation is a major form of receiving toxins?
Mm-hmm.
So I again, try to really keep it simple. And just, it's like, let's just think about this, why, again, I understand there's a lot of marketing and I have a whole issue with any multi-level marketing company anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
multi-level marketing essential oils just seems like an oxymoron to me. It's essential oil, but I don't want to knock someone else's capitalistic exploits. If that's what they're wanting to do and people buy it, that's fine. I say that with any supplement I know Juice Plus is multi-level marketing. It's actually one of the only decent supplements, but for some of those essential oils and other supplements that are like $60 a bottle, it's like, just go look at the ingredients and find working in the industry, in the supplement industry, I understand how vitamins are called cash cows, right? It's like most people think they need them, and there are people who feel better with them. But, if you're eating a really healthful diet, you're getting most of your vitamins, and then if your absorption is off in your gut, let's focus on the absorption as opposed to just taking a multivitamin every day.
Right.
So yeah, I always get a lot of heat when I say that. It's like my multis, it's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not knocking multis. Well, I am. I'm not knocking multis. But what I am saying is, let's explore. Again, you don't have a pill deficiency. There's some other deficiency presenting, and let's explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, because people can sometimes trust the supplements, the vitamins more than taking in the nutrients by food. How do you feel about that?
I try to meet you where you are. If I'm talking to you and I see that, eating cheese is like your downfall, and it's a real struggle, right? For some people, it's like they eat cheese on everything, and some people are fine with it. Some people are not. And if I know that's the one thing that will help your health stay on track is the avoidance of cheese, and if that is a struggle for you, I want to respect that. I don't want to just say, get the cheese out or you're out of here. Now, some practitioners will do that.
Right.
And that's their approach. So I'll say this. If you are hesitant to make those dietary changes, then let's consider supplements. Supplements can be a cheat. The thing about supplements, they are there to supplement your lifestyle. They're not meant to be on long term. Now, even for people with autoimmunity who might be on a supplement for a long term, even they should alternate. If you have, lupus or MS or rheumatoid arthritis, and you're taking kind of a protocol and you're finding that you're healing from it, then I always say find 2 protocols. Follow one for 6 months, switch to another one for 6 months, and often that can keep you a little bit, your immune system more supported. But supplements are meant to supplement your lifestyle, and often they can stop working, which I love, because I'll get that all the time. Well, I've been taking this for years and no longer works. And I'm like, great.
You ready to think about something else? Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's like, I've been taking this for years. And I'll say, well, do you notice a difference without it? Well, I don't know. I just keep taking it. And, I think we get into the routine because we want to do something helpful for our bodies. We don't want to be under investigation, constantly wondering, does this work? Does this work? But I think it's just cost. I personally don't like taking supplements. I absolutely dislike it. And I will find any and everything to do with it to not take them. But there are times when I take them, again, as I get a little bit older, I find that vitamin D in the winter really works. I would be someone who's just like, I'm not taking it, but I have this is my 3rd winter now taking vitamin D3. Energy's great, immune function. And I didn't notice the energy not being great before that. So it wasn't like I had a complaint of low energy. I just noticed, wow, my energy seems all the much more better.
Right.
And I take that from November 1st until March 1st. And then I'm off of vitamin D3. It forces me to get outside every day.
Right.
And I still go for winter walks. So I'm still out walking in the cold, but I will add in vitamin D3. So it's one of those things where it's like, if it works for you. Now, the moment I find that I'm not noticing a benefit, then it's time for me to stop taking it. Right. And it took me a while. I did not want to admit that I noticed a benefit, but I do. I'm a little stubborn, or so I'm told.
Right. Yeah, because we are creatures of habit. So it's really easy to fall into the trap of, this is good for me. I need to take it all the time.
Yes.
And this is just the way my life is now. Almost the same way people look at taking prescriptions.
Yes.
I'm okay. This is my prescription. I need this, and I'm always going to be taking it. It's kind of funny how we still do that to ourselves, even on the good flip side of it, seemingly. That this is my new dependence, but it's a good one, so you can't fault me for it. But still, it is important, like you said, to see if you do notice a difference, if it isn't helping you anymore. And also the point of everything's not meant to be long term.
And that's coming from someone who owns a store that sells supplements.
Right, exactly.
I'm like, I am probably shooting myself in the foot, but I tell people, even in the store, I'm like, well, what's your plan? You're going to take this, and now what? cholesterol medications, and I'm saying this with a lot of, feist and fervor, or prescription cholesterol medications are the easiest to come off of if you're only taking them for cholesterol. Now, people take them post, what was the word I was trying to find? Heart attack before, or stroke. And I'm not, that's a conversation between you and your cardiologist, so I don't alter that. But when someone says my cholesterol has been 300 and now I'm on a statin, I'm like, statins are the easiest thing to come off of. And often most people that come to see me, they're so proud that they got themselves off of a statin. Because you know what they did? They started walking and they cut their cholesterol. Well, where do we get cholesterol? We always think meat, red meat, chicken. Chicken, believe it or not, is a high source of cholesterol. Eating 2 eggs a day every day, that's going to raise your cholesterol. But dairy is often the high source of cholesterol that people don't consider. So they're like, well, I cut out beef, but my cholesterol is still high. And I'm like, well, what do you have? I have a turkey sandwich every day. I put 2 slices of cheese. And then for lunch, for breakfast, I'll have eggs with cheese on it. And then, it just seems like that theme throughout the day. And I'll say, well, prepare everything you're doing and take the cheese out and see if that makes a difference. And I'm like, why? Because dairy is still a source of cholesterol. Ice cream, treat at night, creamer in your coffee. And everyone always says, well, I'm going to use a little bit of creamer. Just a little bit. But it's the daily component of it. And if you omit that could be the one thing. So again, the reality is that one thing, I don't want to slight someone and say, oh, it's just easy, come off dairy. And if they're like, it's a struggle, then I'll say, okay, here are some supplements to go on as we're transitioning into the diet. But the long-term medicine for balancing cholesterol is all diet. You don't have to be a vegan or vegetarian. You just have to drastically reduce the animal products. Right. And drastically means you can't eat it every day. You might have 3 days a week of some type of animal product and the other day, just to get your numbers down. And then once they're down, you might be able to go have animal products 4 days a week, but you always got to keep 3 days a week non-animal product. And that will always keep the cholesterol down.
Right. Yeah. That really makes me think about, the importance of staying actively engaged in your life and your health. We want to eat the same breakfast every day, the same lunch, everything like that. And thinking about breaking away from that and actually having to do the work of thinking of introducing more foods, more variety to be more balanced. That can be really tricky for a lot of people because we are busy and everything. But I mean,
it is. And I get it, and to tell people this in the middle of a pandemic where everything is just upended, your life is no longer balanced in any way, shape, or form. And it's like, I need some sense of balance. So I'm going to eat this daily. I'm going to do that, and I think that's what is happening. And I'm not, and by any means, I don't consider myself a chef. I am not the best cook. I'm very aware of that. Surprise, I am still married. But it's edible. Whatever I make is edible. I'll say that. But I don't often cook a lot. But what I'll do is I have chop days. So I do something in a crock pot every Sunday. And it's so simple, it's ridiculous. But I did white beans and kale with a red onion, and I made enough of that to last. So what happens is I'll have like this crock pot meal and I might make like black bean tacos or something while the crock pot meal is going. And so I have these black bean tacos. That's our, dinner. And I got this crock pot deal going. And so I'll package the little crock pot deal and throw that in the freezer. So then Sunday I've had black bean tacos. Well, on Monday I pull out this crock pot deal, with some beans or some greens. But guess what? Have some left over from last week, which was, like a chili I did, so it's like I can swap out the chili and have that on the Tuesday because I had the white bean and kale on Monday, and I still have a little leftover of the taco. So now that's Wednesday. So what looks like this very, varied diet, it's really kind of simple life hacks in my world,
right?
Of things of just preparing a meal. I always roast some type of vegetable. Usually it's Brussels sprouts and sweet potato. I might get wild and throw broccoli in there, It's real. I'm just saying it's so basic. And I'm saying this to say I'll have those roasted. So now it's like, well, if I bake fish on Friday, guess what? I've already roasted the sweet potato and the Brussels sprouts. I pair that with it. It's like I'm constantly hodgepodging and piecemealing to make it look different. And I'm probably preparing foods 3 times per week, but it's just I'm making a lot of roasted vegetables, or I bake some chicken or fish, or so I call it hacks, but it's probably lazy.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I keep some salad in there, and I'll tell you, it's probably bad. I'll buy field greens, and I just spray. I have a vinaigrette spray, you know, and then I pour olive oil, and I like olives, so I slice olives. That's my salad.
Right.
I'm not a fancy salad person, and I'm not saying you just got to give in and eat whatever, but for someone who's not a cook, who is, you know, busy like everyone else.
Right.
I will try to get certain things prepared, and then I kind of throw them all together in a meal. Every night is different. And it's because I'm just kind of stockpiling. And I have a little, I use these glass Pyrex dishes for my leftovers.
Right.
So I call it, you know, my Pyrex hotel. So I got like these stacks of, and then it's a mystery. It's like, I don't know what this is, you know.
Right. Ooh.
Like, ta-da! Oh, I forgot I put this. So you know, it's a little bit of a game, but it's that's how I make it fun, and that's how I make it work. So I try to give people those like real life. Now, if you're like a chef and you're doing sautés and reductions and all of that, then good luck. You know, if you need a reduction over something, and you know, I know life is gonna be a little bit more complicated.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm a lazy person when it comes to cooking too. I need to do a bunch of stuff kind of in bulk and then put it away. I need to just be able to grab things.
Yep.
Right.
And that's me. It's like, what can I bake? You know, I'm already thinking tomorrow I had some butternut squash and parsnips. So I'm going to roast those. And I got 2 really big ones, the butternut squash and a bunch of parsnips. Like, okay, cover those in some coconut oil, season them with some garlic, and I'll have roasted butternut squash and parsnips with some other random food item that I'll pair it with.
Right.
Throughout the week.
Yeah, I know. I'm so bad about the crock pot. I feel like I rediscover it every once in a while, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is great. I should really do this more. And then I'm like,
and I'll tell you, the crock pot that I have, my mother gave me. I think she purchased that the year I was born. Wow. It has like that old 70s print on the side. It just has 2 on and off. And I don't know what the temperature is. Just and that thing still works. I turn it on, throw stuff in, walk away, and that it works for me. And I kept thinking, man, maybe I need to get a new crock pot. I'm like, wow, I got this thing kicking like nobody's business. 2 settings, on, off. I don't need to know temperatures and all. I don't need the bells and whistles. I just need
things used to be built to last a long time.
Right. Newfangled devices have all these buttons. I don't need that.
Right.
You know, so it's again, I try to share how basic and simple it is, because it is that basic and simple for me. But not that I don't enjoy good food.
Right.
I need my life to be.
Right.
That's one area where it's like, I don't have the time and energy. I made a quiche once because I just really wanted a quiche. And then the recipe I had was like, you have to prepare the crust and bake it and then pull it. I did that, and it was like 18 steps, and I said, I'll never do it again. Any meal that requires more than 3 steps or has a 3rd step, I'm not doing it.
Or has a 3rd step.
No. If it can't all go on one thing, that's just not I know my strengths, and that's not it.
Right, right. Yeah, I know, because if you do try to prepare more things, have more variety available to you, maybe it can stop you from being so bored with your diet and then thinking, oh, well, maybe I'll just get a pizza. Maybe I'll just get a burger, you know.
But, I fit that in. I do have like we used to do every Friday. It's like every other Friday, my family will do pizza night. And sometimes I'm just ordering from like I do try to get like a local restaurant or something.
Right.
Not a chain. And then there are the nights where I'm making it because I'm feeling really good, and I'll make it, and I'm using like a cauliflower crust, and I've made a vegan pesto, and I put spinach, and there are days when it's like, I want this as my pizza. And then there are days like, just order whatever. Give me, And so because I factor those days in. I don't feel deprived. I'm definitely not someone who's like, I'm not an all or nothing person. I think all things in moderation, which I also understand does not work for many people. Some people need to be all or nothing. So I try to reconcile my everything in, all thing in moderation. I try to reconcile that with respecting that does not work for everyone.
Yeah,
and I've had people say, you need to tell me no, yes or no on this or not, and I'll say thank you for that, because I know that's just not how I don't want to live my life that way. And I also understand that may be a luxury where I'm not choosing either this or that. Right. It's just, so I want to be very mindful and respectful of that. But I think it's important to know. And then the assumption is with the naturopathic doctor, everyone's like, oh, you're going to take away my teas and coffee. And I'm like, no, I don't take away coffee. And I don't like to say I take away things. But coffee for many people is a ritual. And I respect that morning ritual. And that to me is mental health balancing. Your mental health really ties into your physical health. Right. And if I am taking away your tools that keep you balanced mentally, then we will not have a successful healing relationship. Right. Now, I often will say, well, how do we replace, 2 mornings per week? Can we make that agree? If someone's having anxiety or gut issues because of the coffee, it's like, okay, now this is no longer serving you. Just like the supplements. Right. Are they still serving you? The coffee can get to a point where it's no longer serving you. And then what do? There are some great teas. Let's play around with different options, or, what else could be done to create a ritual? Because sometimes our rituals or our comforts are so tied into something we consume. When a ritual could be, I give myself 20 minutes of meditation, or I go for a morning walk, or I give myself a bath, every night. It's like, how do we expand that toolkit to feel good and okay? And that to me is what's important for mental health and mental balance, which definitely ties into physical health.
Right. Yeah, because it's important that we do learn new ways to reconnect with ourselves and just pay attention to ourselves, rather than that, hanging out, watching TV. Yeah. You can get caught up by that really easy.
Yeah. And I think TV serves Netflix serves a purpose. TV serves it's just, that can't be my only healing tool. Right. There are moments when I shut down all technology. And, I probably get a few profanities hurled at me during that moment, but it's like, I just can't, I'm at my wit's end. And for protecting myself and creating my own boundaries for my own personal healing, I have to do that. I have to shut off. And as much as I talk to people about their healing, I factor myself in all the time. And that was something as a practitioner, especially when you start helping others, you really feel like you start giving a lot of yourself. It's very easy to do that, because you wouldn't be in this field of healing if you didn't have the empathy and the compassion. Right. So it's the one thing I talk to other healers about is heal or heal thyself. I can't give you 20% of me. And I have to make sure when I am with a patient, I am there 100%. Now, have I had days where I was 85%? Yes, I would be lying if I said I was always 100%. But my goal is to give you 100% of me. And the only way I can do that is giving myself back 100%. So I think about, for every hour that I spend giving to someone else, whether it's in a work or in a store or in a practice one-on-one or family, I have to give myself back 10 minutes. So let's just pretend you only give your kids 5 hours a day. And then you got a spouse, right? Let's pretend you only give your spouse an hour a day. That's now 6 hours. So you have 60 minutes that you need to give back to you to rejuvenate yourself, to keep you whole.
Yeah, that's something I recognize with myself. I need to have quiet time, and it's nothing personal against anybody else, but I need time to decompress and be alone with my thoughts. And that's just a part of my personality I've always been aware of. So
yeah. And I think it's giving ourselves permission to have that time. And really it makes us better. So I'm a better, partner. I'm a better parent. I'm a better, sibling, because now I've sat and I've given myself the time to heal. and reconnect and rejuvenate. Otherwise, we're just all on edge. You know, that's the people who are road raging, or the stories you hear of someone just, you know, a coach yelling at a child. And it's because that person did not do the work. They did not do the self-care that was needed, and it was building. And so now you have these extreme events that unfortunately are now captured on someone's cell phone, and you're apologizing publicly because you didn't do the self-care. And I feel like we don't have the luxury of not doing it.
Right.
So I really value my time. I value, and I create boundaries, you know, with loved ones and with those that I do care about, which would be my patients and my customers now. You know, customers, I do have to create boundaries, and then have, you know, my staff also create boundaries.
Right. Yeah. Because that could be something that could be really easy to be sucked into, right? Having so many balls in the air, and something's happening somewhere all the time, that it is hard to separate yourself just for your own good.
So I factor myself in to everything I do. If I'm scheduling other people, if I'm scheduling, you know, different events, then I schedule a slot for myself. And it's something I committed myself to. I remember it was in 2013, and I said, because I was always running and giving and doing, and I was always exhausted at the end of the day. And I thought, this can't be sustainable. You know, as a practitioner, telling people about how health and healing is important, and I'm not investing that time back into me. And it was 2013, and I said, no more. Every day I do something that fills me, whether it's watching some comedy, whether it's me blending teas, sipping tea, a bath, go for a walk. I like to golf, I garden. I mean, I have so many hobbies, because I want my toolkit to be so massive that I could pull 5 or 6 things from my toolkit in a week and still have another 45 things that I still want to do and want to embark upon.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm very proud of myself for that.
So I wanted to bring up the definition of exercise, because that's one of those things, getting out, moving. But it really doesn't have to be always the traditional things that people think about, right? You know, I don't like to run. I don't want to be on a treadmill. I don't want to go to the gym, things like that. But, you know, anything that keeps you active and is a fun, sweaty activity. There's so many things you can do. Absolutely. How do you feel about that when people say they don't like exercise?
I always say, do you like music? Do you like to dance? You know, I think dancing is one of the best forms of exercise. And put on some of your favorite tunes and rock out. You know, have a rock party, just you and your music, in 15 minutes. And if you can turn off music that you really love in 15 minutes, I am impressed. So, you know, for 30 minutes, 20 minutes. So dancing, I think, is a really good form of exercise. I love like how hula hoops came back in, kind of a cool thing, hula hooping. Often I'll tell people what I call the lazy exercise is, if you're watching TV, for every commercial, get up and march in place. And they're like, that's it, march in place. So marching in place on every commercial is a really fun thing to do as well. And then sometimes I like to just play, you know, little games. You know, they're like, they have, what is the thing? I'll tell you how old I am. The video games that are
right
that involve movement. I think sex is a really good form of exercise. You know, it depends on how you're doing it, who you're doing it with. But so I think there are a lot of ways that you can incorporate movement activity. I would say sustained heart rate. You know, 5 to 20 minutes of a sustained heart rate, and it can be as simple as the marching in place. It can be as simple as just, you know, walking up and down your stairs. If you have a flight of stairs, store all of your important things. Take your car keys and put them upstairs, or downstairs where you have to go and keep your cell phone at night. Keep it upstairs or downstairs. Like, I think there are things like that we can use and be unintentional. You hear the park, you know, far away. I think all of that is important. Now, do I count that as exercise? I think that's more lifestyle. Lifestyle is, you know, I may go take an extra flight of stairs, or I may park, you know, at the very back of the parking lot. Exercise is very intentional. I'm turning on the music and I'm dancing for 20 minutes. it's intentional. I'm going to cycle for 20 minutes. I'm going to hula hoop for 20 minutes. The other day, so I go on walks with my daughter, and I said, we're going to skip through the park. And she's like, what? She's like, what's wrong? I was like, let's skip. I was like, when's the last time you've seen someone skipping? And she's like, well, it's because you're not, she called me some name that I won't say. I said, yeah. So then we started skipping through the park, and it was just like so fun.
Right.
It's just one of those things where you don't think about how skipping is just like you can't be angry and skip, right? I think I heard.
Right. Yeah. That would totally improve your mood.
Yeah. But, I know some people say they clean their house, like the floors. Now, when I say that, the person who was telling me that gets on her hands and knees and scrubs the floor. So it's like, yeah, you're really cleaning your floors. Washing a vehicle. So if you have a vehicle or two, go wash your loved one or a senior. If you have a family member, go wash their car, every, weekend. And that's something that takes you out of that element, and you're doing something nice for someone. And then at the same time, you're getting some movement, carrying the bucket, be intentional, carry 2 buckets and use those as weights. So I think lifestyle factors, we can be intentional about our movement, which is important, just as important as sustained exercise.
Right. And a lot of those suggestions do sound very holistic in their approach. Yeah. Like you said, washing the car, helping somebody out, being outside, feeling good about doing something good for somebody. That
absolutely
has so many benefits built into it if we don't think of exercise in the traditional sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's like we get in our heads like, oh, I don't want to exercise. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Like, you don't want to go into a boot camp class. I don't either. I have no desire to go to anyone's boot camp class, and have never gone. I think I went to one accidentally and realized I was in a boot camp class. I was like, no. I have no need to do this. But I've gone through spin classes, and I love spin. Some people think spin's torture, and I'm like, it's like the best thing since sliced bread. So you just got to find what works for you.
Right. Yeah. So is there anything you'd like to add to this, Jamila? I think we covered so much ground today.
I know. I always got something to add. I think I do want to thank you for inviting me on and chatting. I think I didn't know what to expect. So I definitely didn't know what to expect. So you asked some really key questions I don't think anyone has ever asked me before. So I'm very appreciative.
Oh God, thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you definitely got some hosting, some talk show host skills there.
Maybe I figured out something I can do finally. I feel like I've always been like, I don't know.
No, I've never been asked those questions before, and it really made me think, and it felt good to talk about it. I think sometimes in the healing field, you're cautious about what to say.
Right.
So because you want to protect people, but sometimes I think we need to share many aspects. You want to hear what your practitioner is thinking, and maybe that could trigger something in you, and vice versa. So I'm very appreciative and thankful that you invited me on, and you had such cool questions. And I always welcome the opportunity to talk about how to support people in their healing. And I'm always just grateful to meet other healers and to see the work that they're doing. So keep it up.
Thank you.
Keep it up, lady.
Thank you. I appreciate all the time you spent with me tonight. I had a lot of fun talking about these subjects too. I feel the same way. It's like one of those things where, it might take me a minute to get started, but once I do, like we could talk all night basically.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Right.
I think I can't wait to watch more about what you're doing in upcoming chats. So, I'll stay tuned for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Tuned. Yeah.
If you'd like to learn more about Jamila and the businesses she owns, I'll have links in the description. Thanks, and talk to you next week.